Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Coach Prime, the Colorado Buffaloes, they get their guy out of the transfer portal and former Liberty quarterback Kaidon Salter committing to Colorado. This makes sense for a ton of different reasons. And I love this for a ton of different reasons. And I think it starts with what you're just getting from Kaidon Salter as a quarterback. This is a guy that can test you in so many different ways. If you're an opposing defense, you go back to 2023. This was some of the more impressive quarterback play that we saw in the country. Briefly entered the transfer portal. You had a lot of Power 4 programs looking to add Kaidon Salter to their roster. Goes back to Liberty in 2024. Maybe not as much of a productive year in the 2024 year than what we saw in 2023. But you're getting a quarterback that can really win at a high level in the Power 4 conferences. Now, it starts with what Kaidon Salter can do from a pure thrower of the football. I mean, this is a guy that a 61% completion percentage for over 2,800 yards, 32 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions, an exceptional touchdown to interception ratio. And I would remind everybody that 61% completion percentage, that came with an average depth of target of 13.6 yards down the field. And this was a guy that was consistently pushing the ball down the field, completing at a very, very high clip. And that's not to mention what he can do as an athlete as well. In 2023, ran for over 1,000 yards, legitimate difference maker with the football in his hands. Forced over 50 missed tackles in that 2023 year. And it's not only running with the football, it's how creative he is getting outside the pocket. And this is a guy that he can create, similar to how we saw Shedeur Sanders create for Colorado the last 2 years. And when it comes to throwing off platform, throwing on the run, there's really not a throw that Kaidon Salter can make. And so that's where it starts. I think you're getting a quarterback that you can win at a very high level with in the 2025 season. And this is a perfect guy to pair with Julian Lewis. I've been very vocal. The Colorado fans who've been rocking with the fellas the last couple of weeks know I felt comfortable with Colorado starting Julian Lewis as a true freshman. And this is a guy that, even though he reclassified from 2026 to 2025, there's not many quarterbacks in that 2025 cycle that have produced like Julian Lewis, that have played as much football as Julian Lewis. And this is a guy that was born and bred to play quarterback at the collegiate level. And so we felt pretty dang comfortable that Julian Lewis could take over the reins in the 2025 year, but you want to make sure he's ready. Kaidon Salter is a quarterback that allows you to let Julian Lewis develop on his own time. You don't have to throw him into the deep end if he's not ready. This is a perfect one-year bridge quarterback for Julian Lewis. And I'll say this, if Julian Lewis beats out Kaidon Salter heading into 2025, he beat out a damn good quarterback, and you're going to get really good quarterback play from Julian Lewis in 2025. But I would guess the plan is to go with Kaidon Salter in 2025, and then it's Julian Lewis time in 2026. And that's something we always talk about when you talk about program building, like that quarterback runway, having a multi-year plan of what you want to do with your roster. Colorado and Coach Prime have done that at the most important position at the quarterback spot. Want to get a little bit more into Kaidon Salter, talk about where Colorado is going in the transfer portal now. Before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Colorado fans. Y'all continue to show a ton of love to the boys. I've had a blast breaking down these commitments. Ton of support from y'all. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into Kaidon Salter. And to me, it starts with, all right, can this kid jump up from the group of 5 level to the Power 4 level? I think the answer is unequivocally yes. One, because of the film you see from him at Liberty. I think more importantly, it's important to remind everybody that coming out of high school, Kaidon Salter was a top 50 national prospect, ended up winding up at Liberty, really had a good couple of seasons, and now he's kind of getting ready to jump back up to the Power 4 level. And then you look at the traits, that's kind of where it starts for me. He opens up so many different ways for you to attack an opposing defense. I mean, he can pushing the ball down the field. There's not many better quarterbacks. We talked about the average depth of target, completes 47% of his footballs that travel more than 20 yards down the field, which is an exceptional number. So pushing the ball that deeper third is something Kaidon Salter can do relatively easily. Now you talk about extending plays. You talk about design quarterback runs. This is a guy that if you're an opposing defensive coordinator, you got to have a plan for in terms of the athleticism that he brings to the table. And again, it's not only on design quarterback runs. You go back to the Liberty film, being able to create when plays break down, when the pocket's a little bit muddy, getting outside, throwing on the run, he can do that too. And there's not really many things you ask Kaidon Salter to do that he can't. And that's kind of where it starts with Kaidon Salter. Now, you talk about the quarterback runway. Though this is what you want it to look like. You feel really confident with Kaidon Salter taking over this offense in 2025 while Julian Lewis develops. And then whenever that time is for Julian Lewis to take over, whether it's to start 2025 as a true freshman, whether it's as a second-year kid in 2026, if you're Coach Prime, you're set at the quarterback position for the next couple of years. I think landing this commitment early on, too, allows you to get a little bit more aggressive in terms of recruiting wide receivers. Now, there are a lot of wide receivers on this Colorado roster that I like. Talk about Marion Miller coming back from injury, talk about Draylon Miller, but you also want to make some additions through the transfer portal as well. I think a lot of these top wide receivers want to see what's the quarterback play going to look like at Colorado before I come to Colorado. That wasn't a question that you had to answer last year because you knew you had one of the best ones in the country. Now it might be. I think that you could reasonably have a ton of confidence in Julian Lewis, but I think the addition of Kaidon Salter, shows a lot of these pass catchers in the transfer portal that, hey, I know I'm going to get good quarterback play if I come to Colorado. The offense is proven. You had a lot of wide receivers catching for a lot of yards in 2025. I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of commitment allows some more wide receivers to have a little bit more confidence in terms of what this Colorado offense is going to be in the 2025 season. I also want to talk real quick about Reginald Hughes committing to Colorado late last night. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to it. There's some production that needs to be replaced at the linebacker spot, right? And Nikhai Hill-Green hits the portal. Avonta Bentley going to the NFL. Trevor Woods hit the transfer portal, which I think we all knew was going to happen. Reginald Hughes, one, I love the story, right? JUCO kid, goes to Ole Miss, can't really crack the lineup early, goes to Jacksonville State, has a phenomenal year in 2024. You're talking about 82 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks with only 11% missed tackle rate. It's a guy that played over 750 snaps for Jacksonville State in 2024. You're getting a linebacker that can play at a high level. And what I love most about Reginald Hughes, he is an elite blitzing linebacker. Some of these numbers, he'll line up off the edge and just give you straight edge rusher production blitzing off the edge. But whether it's blitzing A or B gap, whenever you ask this kid to go blitz the quarterback, 19 quarterback hurries, 4.5 sacks. He's a hammer in the run game with 33 run stops. This one made a lot of sense as well for Colorado. And to kind of close it out, you love what Colorado's doing. They're grabbing guys that not only are good football players, but kind of fit what they need in their roster. And that's really important. That's how you want to use the transfer portal. I would expect a lot more commitments to come in over the next couple of weeks. We'll continue to break them down. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.